So, the years I was in that position as the project coordinator for embedding sustainable development within the curriculum in the UK universities, those years were 2005 to 2012, and I did a bit of managing editor for a book 2018, 2019. So, we're talking 2005, nearly 20 years ago. And I just had a birthday, so I'm feeling that. I'm still on an email list for lecturers, professors who work in that area, and I see, unfortunately, the exact same questions coming up as I did 20 years ago. And these are good people. They're people who want to be able to say on their deathbeds that they did something to try to counter climate change and environmental destruction and make the world a better place, but so little has changed. Emissions are going up. Environmental destruction continues. And we know that there are systemic reasons for this. Two of them are C words, but not what you might think: capitalism and colonialism. So while universities are always putting up United Nations Sustainable Development Goal logos and links all over the place, we actually see a huge disconnect in what is really happening in universities. I'm feeling really sick to my stomach today and have been for many days because of what's happening with Palestinians and people in Lebanon, in Congo, Sudan, Haiti. We're recording this Monday, 21st October. This morning, I heard a brief update of what had been happening at the weekend, and it just makes me sick to my stomach. Universities claim to care about sustainable development goals, and yet they're complicit with the genocide in terms of military connections and funding around Israel. Just think about the following sustainable development goals while keeping in mind genocide. Okay? No poverty. Zero hunger. Good health and well-being. Quality education. Clean water and sanitation. Reduced inequalities. Sustainable cities and communities. Climate action. Life on land. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. I mean, how any university that claims to care about these goals can just be not doing everything they can to stop genocide. And yet, it's the opposite. It's the opposite because when university students begin to protest, the universities aren't backing them up. They're repressing students and staff who are protesting genocide. So I think universities are a farce when it comes to sustainable development. And it's heartbreaking, even if you put to one side the genocide of Palestinians. You only have to look at where university money comes from, where it goes, and the kinds of careers it is producing to see that universities have been a failure and continue to fail in many, many ways. That email list that I'm still on, someone posted last month about a course they are running on Palestine and the genocide. And someone replied, a white woman, that this isn't relevant to sustainable development. Now, nobody else backed her up, fortunately, and a couple of us defended the post about the course. But what is even going on here? Even if you don't care about humans, and there are people in the environmental movement that do not care about humans, surely you think that Israel bombing day after day for a year, more than a year now, has an impact on climate change and environmental destruction. So I feel sick by the higher education for sustainable development industry, and that's where I'm at today. It's a bit like nonprofit organizations as well, the nonprofit industrial complex. Like, what is the point of them? Their goal seems to be to keep themselves alive and to keep themselves earning money and keep their jobs. And that's why I guess we have to follow the money with universities. We have to look at what their motivations are, their heads of the universities. What are they doing? How much are they getting paid? Who has positions? And what percentage of the budget is actually going to the delivery of contact with students? That would be pretty interesting to look at. And then if we look at individual staff members, so many of them are staying quiet about the genocide. And we understand this is also happening outside universities because people are scared to lose their jobs. We live in a capitalist society, and there are big repercussions if you can't afford your insulin, can't pay the rent, feed your kids. So they want to keep their jobs, they want to keep their funding. These are all perverse incentives. Lavinia and I have economics backgrounds. So the conditions are such that universities end up rewarding behavior that is completely out of alignment with their own stated vision, purpose, mission, and values. But what is heartening and gives me hope is that so many people now, especially young people, university age, are becoming radicalized by what they see because it's become just so obvious that what universities actually care about is not what they care about. And they can see who universities don't care about. And they're seeing the same with politicians. You know, we have a US election coming up in a couple of weeks, and the choice is genocide or genocide, cops or cops. Like, there's no liberatory anti-oppression choice here. How are people meant to express what they want? That's not a democracy. People don't have that option. It's disgusting, it's sad, and it's great that so many people are recognizing it now. I suppose the idea of the universal being in the particular and the particular being in the universal, that is kind of the goal I would want. My vision of learning and sharing knowledge and perspectives is that when I look outside my window and I see the bark that I bought to put over what used to be grass, and this is just a tiny, tiny garden. In the US, you would call it a backyard, just super tiny. And if you just focus on that, you end up expanding out to colonialism and capitalism, because what's under the soil? What's in the soil? Who used to live on this land? The Mohiskans. What happened to them? Why aren't they on this land? Where did I get the wood from? It all shows up. And so if universities, and I mean the physical infrastructure of a university, which is full of resources, full of spaces, and these could be community spaces, not just save for people like in the US who can afford to go to university, or people in Europe who get good enough grades to be able to go to university. It would be a community space, a space for all ages. 2-year-olds running around mingling with people who understand science, and everyone would begin to understand their local community, see how it affects and is affected by the rest of the world. We would learn about systems and systems thinking and what makes sense locally to get our needs met, our needs for healthy food, needs for clean water, for clean air, to be able to grapple with that rather than it being this weird cult-like institution. You know, there are cult dynamics and white supremacy culture patterns there about who holds the knowledge and what kind of games you have to play to know the right people for your career. And instead, no, we're here to figure out how to meet people's needs locally and around the world. So for me, it's just so sad to have these huge spaces full of resources, and yet they're protected and jealously guarded by typically older whiter, males, and it's a sad misuse of what humans are capable of. I studied economics, heterodox economics. So even though I was studying about what's wrong with mainstream economic theory, it was still books and papers and people gathering for conferences to talk about it. That's academia. There's no praxis. Like, we don't want it to be just this thing where people think about something, read about it, talk about it, write about it. It needs to be when we're doing things and we're learning by engaging with life and not with papers and just ideas and staying in insular circles, talking about what our special area is. And Chris, you talked about interdisciplinarity, and there's such a lack of it. People are just in their narrow fields, and interdisciplinarity ends up being this very niche thing. But life is interdisciplinary. It makes no sense to put people in boxes or put all 8-year-olds together, all 12-year-olds together. What are we doing? Everyone's unique. We're all humans. And it just reminds me today, the YouGov UK poll that they put out every day was about smacking, hitting children. Do you think parents should be allowed to do that? And at the point that I was participating in the poll, it was 60% of people in the UK were saying they should be allowed to smack their children. That's domestic violence. We wouldn't be allowed to say that we think it's okay. 60% think domestic violence is okay. It's just another form of dehumanization. Like sticking people through school as if they're all the same, sticking people through a university degree, one size fits all. It's dehumanizing. So, we can start wrapping this up by reminding ourselves like the sheer breadth of dehumanization that is going on in the world right now, whether that's people in prison, schools, the genocides that are happening, and people are really struggling. The people who are watching from afar, because how can this be happening? This is the first time we've been able to see a live stream of a genocide. We know this has been happening for hundreds of years, this kind of thing, and now we see what it looks like. But more than anything, I think the people in power would like us to get used to it, for this to be normalized, so that we can keep working, keep making profits for the multinationals, etc. So they want us to go numb. But I'm saying, let's not. Let's keep feeling it. Let's keep connecting with other people on it. Like, don't get bored of seeing posts about it. But we need to make space to feel it and make that space part of building community, because that's what we're up against. This is the future. We see so clearly what people in power, when they feel like they're trapped, what they do. And this will come to us, and it is coming to us through climate change, for one thing, but it can also be coming to us through war. And so I think the best antidote to dehumanization is being really human with one another, with the people around us, and making space for grief and taking action together in community, not feeling isolated.